Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on which location you guys are joining us from today. Today, we're going to be talking about managing different types of Microsoft Teams devices and kind of going over each and every management option that you have available per device. So looking at our agenda today, we are going to touch base on Microsoft Teams Rooms, Teams Phones and Desk Displays, the Surface Hub, and also future devices that are coming to Microsoft Teams within the next year or so. We are going to follow up with a demo of these different management features inside the Teams Admin Center and a few other areas in Microsoft. And then we will go ahead and kind of catch back up at the end and offer a Q&A. So we're going to go ahead and begin with an introduction. So my name is Eric Marsi. I do live in Barberton, Ohio. So I'm not sure how many people are here from the UK, maybe even potentially Australia right now. But Barberton is a very small town in Northeast Ohio. We are about an hour south of Cleveland, and we are also known as the fried chicken capital of the United States, surprisingly. Kind of shocking on that one, but but I am a day two cloud engineer for a company called T2M Works, formerly Time to Market. And this past July, I did get my bachelor's degree from the University of Akron in computer information systems. About a year ago, I passed my MCSE productivity solutions and my MCSA in 0365. And then just this past year, I did pass my audio code certified associate certification. IT in general has been a lifelong passion for me. I can imagine, still remember back when I was 3 or 4 years old, building my first computer. 5th grade, wanted a server rack. It's just kind of been an ongoing thing my entire life. And so I'm very happy to be, actually working in a field that I love and not just, doing some random job. And I also love speaking at different community events because it's my chance to kind of give back, to all the people that have got me to where I am today, to potentially bring on the new generation or even help people that are still working the field today. Some of my hobbies include tinkering. If I could take something apart and put it back together, I'm going to do that. That's kind of, back in the day when I was, a little kid, not too long ago, in all honesty. I'm only 23. I would take apart Xboxes, rebuild them or fix them. It kind of just, kept on doing a lot of things with that. Building electronics is a big one for me. And then just recently, I got into skiing and four-wheeling. That has been some of my bigger hobbies, but more or less, IT does kind of become my hobby, even though I still work in the field. Actually, I have a whole data center right here next to me, so stay very busy and stay up to date with all the latest technology. So today's session is going to go ahead and talk about how we need to manage different Microsoft Teams devices. Whether you're talking about a Teams room, a Surface Hub, your IP phones, your desk displays, we're going to talk about how you can manage those in your organization. We're also going to talk about the different Teams device categories so you can kind of familiarize yourself a little bit with the different devices that are available for your organization today and in the future. And along the way, we're going to go ahead and also learn a few best practices. So first off, we're going to start with managing Microsoft Teams rooms. Now, with Ignite, they did do a little bit of rebranding, and we're going to touch base on that here in a couple of slides. But our first device type is Microsoft Teams Rooms for Windows. So Microsoft Teams Rooms for Windows allow you to really transform a meeting space, whether it's like a small huddle area or a conference room, into a really rich Teams experience that really isn't that hard to deploy. So, if you're familiar with kind of the Skype room systems days, you used to have like these massive devices like smart technologies. You used to have these giant screens you had to buy that ran the Link Room Systems application. It was kind of a niche product, and there was a lot of heavy installation. With Teams Room Systems, you don't have that anymore. All you have to have is just 1 or 2 displays, and then you have a meeting panel that allows you to do one-tap join, instantly project to the room, and also share that information to your remote participants. So now, management features have been rolling out. I'm not sure if this is in the public tenants yet, because I do kind of reside on the tap rings and higher. But the Microsoft Teams Admin Center is going to have, or already it does have, the ability to manage your Teams room systems. So anything that you have inside of the Teams Admin Center allow you to see what devices are connected to your Teams room, the health and status of those devices, and whether or not you need to be aware of any type of system update or any other information possible that can be pulled from the room system. Now, previously, Microsoft did recommend using Endpoint Manager and Azure Monitor, or formerly LMS. But kind of as we transition now to the Teams Admin Center being that central management hub, their recommendation going forward is going to be the Teams Admin Center. Now, one of the things that I actually personally recommend is that when you are deploying your Teams room systems, you get some type of remote control software installed on it. So I've used 2 different products, VNC Server or ConnectWise Automate / ConnectWise Control. And what's nice about those applications is that you can easily just connect into a room system and perform administrative tasks that you would be able to do if you were sitting there at the actual room system itself. So, very big functionality available there by having that application. Plus, especially if you're troubleshooting an issue, whether it be like a notification, hey, this camera's not working, or you have this little display on your Teams room, you can easily go ahead and just connect to your system manager. Okay. So Microsoft Teams Rooms for Android. So previously this was known as collaboration bars, and it was originally announced at Ignite 2019. Rest in peace, all of our in-person events. But Teams Rooms for Android is kind of Microsoft's kind of new device category, and it can support your larger rooms, but it can also support, and is really originally designed for a lot of your smaller and huddle rooms. They're designed to be very cost effective compared to your Windows based MTRs, but even then the Windows based MTR there's still very competitive pricing that is sometimes on par with the Teams Rooms for Android solution. And a lot of times these were originally designed for like touch screens in small to mid-sized rooms. So like a lot of times you may have executives that may have some type of, little desk in their office, like a lot of the C-level execs, they usually have like a little table next to their desk where they may meet with somebody. It would actually be a very big thing to put a collaboration bar, formerly collaboration bar, Teams Rooms for Android, at that desk, because now they were able to actually have a rich meeting experience, whereas before, if you just gave them like a Polycom Trio or even just a desk phone, they wouldn't have that one-to-one interaction at those type of in those type of environments. And the big thing with this that differs from the Teams Rooms for Windows is it does run in Android, so there are some pros and cons to that solution there. And at the time of writing this, originally, Poly and Gaylink were the only 2 providers of the Teams Rooms for Android. I do believe there are a few new manufacturers that are coming on board. And they're really overall designed to be plug and play. It's designed to be able to pop it on a monitor, plug it in, and you're off to your meeting. And again, it's sized for the executive office / work from home scenario, or even a small to mid-sized meeting room. So in the Teams Admin Center, this is kind of the place where you're going to want to go to manage all your Microsoft Teams room systems. So whether or not you're managing an Android-based solution or a Windows-based solution, the Teams Admin Center is your place to manage your Teams rooms. So it pretty much provides you a single dashboard that allows you to view your call quality data for each conference room, plus also all of the device statuses. So you can see exactly, hey, is this camera plugged in this room? Is the speakers or is the microphone working as expected? Or issues? Is it kind of disconnecting, reconnecting? You can easily see all that right inside the Teams Admin Center. Along with that, you can also view reports on device activity, and you can see what meeting rooms are being used more than others, and kind of what the meeting experiences were rated during those calls that were provided. Now, this is available to you at no additional cost. So pretty much if you have a Teams room that is licensed today, you can go ahead and manage that device directly in the Teams Admin Center. No extra cost required. So be sure to check that out in terms of the Teams Admin Center. Now, Microsoft also provides another service called the Microsoft Managed Meeting Rooms. So this is a Microsoft managed service that allows you to pretty much have insight to your Teams rooms, just like the Teams Admin Center. However, it's a different portal from the Teams Admin Center. So for licensing, it does require that you do have your Teams Rooms license, or if you're using like potentially an older licensing structure, like using the E3 or E5 for the Teams Room. But you also have to have a separate license, and I do believe they have two categories. There's Managed Meeting Room Standard and Premium. The Premium one is where Microsoft will go ahead and kind of manage that room for you. You might be wondering, what does that mean? So pretty much what will happen is that if Microsoft gets an alert, much like a managed service provider would for like a servering organization, if they get an alert saying, hey, the camera's unplugged, they're going to see, hey, is this just kind of like popping offline, coming back online? Or is this something that they're seeing, hey, there's something, maybe potentially something going on with the hardware? They're going to go ahead and open a ticket on your behalf and actually reach out to you and say, hey, this meeting room's got XYZ issue. Do you guys need any assistance with this? And then they can work with you to kind of resolve what's going on. So a lot of the experts that are trained in that are part of the managed meeting room service, they will actually be able to help understand exactly like your scenario. I have a Logitech tab that has this issue. They have experience with those devices to be able to easily troubleshoot you through any of those issues you may have. Additional to this is that they also provide rich analytics reporting that can scale across many customers for depending on how you have this set up. So in terms of features, you have management for all of your rooms if you are paying for the service via one portal. You can see inventory that you have. You can view like serial numbers of all your team's rooms, potentially even for like warranty purposes. You've got compliance reporting, and there is also direct integration with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, or formerly System Center Configuration Manager. And it also allows you to also, interact with Microsoft support one-on-one via the single pane of glass that they're kind of providing with the service. And it talks about how we can have those tickets automatically created with Microsoft. Now, in the future, Microsoft does plan on expanding that support to work with a partner. So what that may mean for your organization is that if you are a customer of Office 365 services, and let's just say you have a CSP that is managing your Office 365 in your cloud environment, what they can do is they can offload that directly to that CSP in the future, so that you go ahead and not even have to worry about, hey, Microsoft just opened this ticket, this meeting room's not working. Your CSP would then be the one that would be taking over that responsibility and actually managing that, those tickets and that information from Microsoft directly, kind of putting you out of the scenario unless some type of on-site support is needed from your CSP. So if you want to go ahead and enroll in the managed meeting room service, you're going to want to go to portal.rooms.microsoft.com, and you're going to want to go ahead and download the MMR and a .key file. That .key file is specific to your tenant and your organization. What you're going to do is then take that key file and transfer it to C Rigel on your Microsoft Teams room in the administrator mode. In case you're not familiar, to get into the admin mode, you're going to press the little three dots on your MTR, go to settings, type in with the default password of SFV. You're going to log out of the Skype account and log in as administrator, and that is the admin mode on your MTR. Once that key file is in that place, you are going to run the MMR installer. And roughly within 15 or so minutes, the device will appear in the Microsoft Managed Meeting Rooms portal. However, the device will appear, but that does not mean that it's enrolled in the service. It is just there reporting the data to the service. So it doesn't mean that it's actually being utilized by the service. So what you'll have to do is, once the meeting room is checked in and you're ready to, the room's set up, you're not unplugging things anymore, you then need to go ahead and enroll the device into the service. So there's a button that will pop up on when you click on the little management pane of the meeting room, and it'll say enroll. You click on that button, And as soon as you click on that button, that device is now managed by the managed meeting service, and the ticketing, everything that you are paying for the service will start to appear and be made available for you. Now, this is Microsoft's solution to manage meeting rooms, but what type of third-party options are there? So some manufacturers are actually providing their own service for this. So some popular ones include Logitech Sync, Crestron Zio Cloud, Yealink Meeting Server, and the Lenovo ThinkSmart Manager. Now, what's cool about these systems is they're also universal of what room system is actually being used. So, for example, you may have a Lenovo Hub 500 that you may want to enroll with Logitech Sync. You're probably thinking, hey, that's not a Logitech tab. Correct. But maybe you have Logitech cameras plugged into it, or a Logitech audio device plugged into it. You can easily pull that information that is specific for the device manufacturer right into their own environment. They're really kind of device, not really device specific in a way. But the big thing to kind of know from this is that it's designed to manage multiple meeting room platforms, so not just Microsoft Teams. So whether you're using some of those devices for Zoom rooms and so forth, they're all managed from their own pane of glass in a way. So it may not have specific Teams features. And then again, you could potentially use your own internal management platform if it does support it, or you're writing custom scripts to pull the log files directly from an MTR. And a good example of that is something like ConnectWise Automate. Now, talking about Crestron Zio Cloud, it also allows you to manage more than just like your meeting rooms. It allows you to also kind of manage your phones that you may have. So if you have any of the Crestron Teams-based phones, you can manage those from there. And it's licensed on a per room basis, and then the pricing for it is really dependent on which licensing tier is selected. But the general rule of thumb is that it's 5 to 10 times cheaper than a managed meeting room from Microsoft. So, for example, a managed meeting room from Microsoft is going to be, roughly $50 a device a month, which is a little bit on the pricey side, if you, in all honesty, if you think about it, because now you've got your Teams room licensing. Now you've also got managed meeting rooms. So these Teams rooms could potentially start costing money if you're using an MMR service. So the good thing with like the third-party options, Crestron is just an example, is that they're either free. I believe Logitech Sync's actually completely free, or they're at a lower cost compared to even managed meeting rooms, and may actually provide different features that may be beneficial to the organization. So it's also, big thing to know is that it's not a full-on managed meeting room service. It's more or less a independent system that you're running internally that may fit your organization better depending on what type of management features you need. Now, one more slide on the Crestron Zio Cloud. What's cool is that it does offer alerting if like the rooms reach capacity. So example, in this COVID era, we've got the ability now to see, hey, this room's got, only says it should have 6 people in it, per social distancing guidelines. Last time we had a meeting, there was 25 people in there. That's kind of a big number, but you can potentially say, hey, there's 8 people in there, and you can kind of report on that. And like Microsoft's managed meeting room service, it will soon also have CSP offerings for any of the CSP partners that there are. So kind of moving away from the Teams rooms, we're now going to move to Teams phones and desk displays. So what type of devices are available from Microsoft partners? Pretty much there is a phone or a device type that is available depending on the scenario for multiple vendors and at multiple different price points from Microsoft. If you do want to learn more about the specific IP phones or different devices, we encourage you to go to aka.ms/Teams devices, where you can view a full catalog based on device type, room size, and there's a lot of different filtering options that you can use to help find a device that fits your needs. A lot of these are managed similarly for user phones, common area phones, meeting rooms, and Teams rooms. So they're all kind of centralized in terms of the main management features from Microsoft inside the Teams Admin Center. And here across the bottom, you can see some of the different phones from different vendors. You have the audio codes DHD, you've got a Yealink VP59, and then you've got the Poly CCX 500s and 600s. But there are different device types. There's ones from Crestron, And I do believe there's actually a few new ones that just got announced at Ignite 2019 as well. So do for sure check those out. Now, Microsoft also brought up a new device category called desk displays, and this is a new product and form factor. Currently, as of talking to you today, this is running the same firmware that you have on a Teams phone. Just the standard Android Teams phone application, nothing's really special about it. But in the future, Microsoft has released a few screenshots of a brand new UI that they are working on for these desk displays specifically, and actually even they're an upcoming device type, which we will talk about later. But it is designed to kind of be of a more rich experience and kind of get you in your meetings and kind of pull that information you need up front faster instead of, kind of a legacy traditional like phone application that you have on your current devices today. So a great example of these upcoming devices is the Lenovo ThinkSmart View. Yealink has a device. I'm not sure if there's any other manufacturers right now of the desk displays. You could potentially even call like a Poly CCX without a handset a desk display, but those aren't going to get the actual desk display UI that you see in the screenshot. So now that we talked about kind of the IP phones and desk displays, how do we manage those? Like the Teams Room systems, again, this is all in the Teams Admin Center. So on the left-hand side, and they actually updated this since the screenshot was originally taken, is it used to say phones, it now says IP phones. But pretty much what you're going to see in here is you're going to see a list of every single phone that every single user has signed into in your organization. So you can kind of see I have in this test tenant that I had 2 users that were signed to a C450 HD. I can see that, hey, there's some updates available. I can view some of the information and kind of really clicking those each one of those devices and kind of see specific information from those devices. Now, in terms of managing different devices, you can build a thing called a configuration profile. Configuration profiles really allow you to manage the settings and features of the Teams device in your organization at a kind of a group level. So pretty much you can enable or disable certain features and say, oh yeah, this is a anybody in accounting, they don't need calendar for some reason. You can disable that across the phones. Or you can, say, hey, these are common area phones. We only want this functionality on those phones, or this to be set in a specific way, or the brightness. And you can kind of really separate this based on department or location. It's really dependent on how you want to build this out inside the Teams Admin Center. So kind of looking into some of the settings that are available, you can kind of go ahead and turn off the screensaver on the phone. You can force a specific device lock pin rather than, letting the user set that, force the time zone. A lot of different features can be enabled or disabled right from the Teams Admin Center for your devices. In addition to this, the Teams Admin Center also allows you to perform updates on all of your Teams devices. So you can do either one device at a time. If you have like a test phone, hey, I need to test up this firmware before it gets pushed to everybody. You can manually update that phone. You could also select multiple phones and do, you can even do the entire organization at one if you want to. And pretty much once you kick off that update, it usually takes roughly 5 to 10 minutes before the phone will, or phone or desk display or collaboration bar, kind of just listing all those device types out, will actually reboot in your environment. And you kind of see here in the screenshot below is that, once I select all these phones, I now have the option, hey, I want to, manually update each one of these items on the phone and then click update. As soon as I click that, that will be sent to the phone and the phone will be in its upgrade process. So certain device information can also be pulled from the Teams Admin Center. So this is right now clicking into one of those users that was signed to a C450 HD. And you can look at the individual device health. In this case, the phone was showing as offline. But you can see, hey, is all the firmware up to date on this? The details tab actually provides a lot of device-specific information that depends on what the vendor is actually sending to Microsoft. And then the history tab actually shows the change control in a way on the device. So you can see when each config change was pushed to the device. You can see exactly when an update was pushed to the device. And you also are given the ability to download device logs from the device. So a lot of information is pulled right from the Teams Admin Center. Now, what may be a little bit different for a few of you is that, kind of with, the 3-pip phones from Microsoft, they kind of brought the phones being its own independent entity, kind of not having to rely on a server for device management. You can log into the phones directly. You could pull up a web UI on the phone, and you could actually, do everything right from the phone, pull logs from the phone. Microsoft's kind of gone back to their OCS and Link 2010 days, where instead of actually the phone having its own UI, it's being managed server side. So if anybody here used to run OCS, Link 2010, Link 2013, or even potentially even still today running Skype, you may or may not have like CX700s or CX600s in your organization, where there really was not a web UI for those phones. It was all managed right from the Skype or Link server control panel. So we're going back to the way that everything used to be, where it was all server side managed, which has its pros and cons. But it is kind of a keynote if you were getting used to those 3-pip devices from Microsoft. So moving on from little individual devices, we are going to move into our one of our last device types, which is Surface Hub. Now, Surface Hub is managed a completely different in your organization, and so Surface Hub is managed directly in Microsoft Intune or some type of supported MDM platform. So potentially, in this case, SCCM, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, depending on which version you are running. Now, why are Surface Hubs managed differently? They're joining Teams meetings. Shouldn't that be in the Teams Admin Center? No, because the Surface Hubs are designed to be more than just a meeting device, where Teams devices are specifically built just for Teams. Surface Hub can be used for multiple applications in your organization, such as apps. You could pull up a whiteboard, or you can do different Windows Store apps directly on a device that's designed to be interactive for a potentially a meeting room or a type of collaborative space. The other big difference is that they do not run a standard version of Windows 10. They are running what's called Windows 10 Team, or otherwise known as PPI Pro, that only permits apps from the Windows Store to run. So there is no Win32 File Explorer. There is not really those traditional desktop features. It's a completely different shell in the operating system from what you are used to on your Windows 10 PC. Recently, Microsoft did announce that they are going to be allowing people to run Windows 10 Pro on it, but at that point, it is just a Windows 10 PC. So depending on how you're actually using the Surface Hub, whether it's a Surface Hub 1 or Surface Hub 2, and depending on your operating system, there still is not a specific use case that says this is a Teams room. So that's why they do manage those devices differently. Now, if you do want to manage your Surface Hubs in your organization, you can go ahead and sign into an Azure AD account when you are setting up the Surface Hub originally. At that time, it will auto-enroll into the Microsoft Intune service, and the device will pretty much automatically enroll, no extra configuration required. Now, if you did set up your Surface Hub with maybe a local account at first, that initial enrollment wouldn't have happened, so you would need to perform a manual registration. So you would need to sign in as an administrator on the Surface Hub, and that admin password, unfortunately, is not generic like our MTRs. That is specific to how you set the device up when it was out of the box. If you did forget that password, you may have to look at some type of recovery option. But you are going to sign in as a local administrator on the Surface Hub. Open the PC settings app, and then select Surface Hub device management, and then click on add, and it will pretty much bring up a sign-in page to Azure AD. After signing in, it will start enrolling the device in Microsoft Intune. Now, these are all about the devices that we have in our hands today. But what about future devices? So what are future devices? What is Microsoft planning? What are they coming up with next? So big one is SIP phone endpoints. Announced here recently, Microsoft will be allowing you to register direct SIP phones to Microsoft Teams starting in Q2 of 2021. So what that means is, for anybody that may or may not have a VVX, for example, have a few actually here in front of me, your VVX is, if you're using with Skype for Business Online or Skype for Business Server today, or even Teams, you may be using the 3-pip interoperability mode with Teams today. Eventually, that service will be shut down from Microsoft. So originally it was ending in 2023, and they kind of extended it out to an unknown date. But pretty much after 2023, we can't make any guarantees of how long those devices are actually going to work with Microsoft Teams. So once they do kill that interoperability service that allows you to use those devices today, the phone would have to be converted back to generic SIP mode. Once it's converted back to generic SIP mode, at that point, it is simply just a basic call-in, call-out device. So pretty much your phone is not going to have any meeting join. It's not going to have any visual voice. No, it's literally just going to be able to dial in, dial out. But Microsoft does want to, provide the management of those devices or the enrollment of that to the standard SIP registration service directly from the Teams Admin Center. Now, announced here at Ignite, Microsoft does have new meeting room panels that can be placed outside of your meeting room. So for example, these are running the same firmware that's running on your desk display, an example, but it allows you to go outside of a meeting room and say, hey, is this room available? What's the calendar look like for it? And again, that will be another device category right inside the Teams Admin Center, just much like your current desk displays, your IP phones, your Teams rooms are today. Going to be exactly the same type of management functionalities that are available. Now, we are going to hop into a quick and small demo. So here you can go ahead and see that we are inside the managed Teams Rooms premium service. And we can go over here and move to the rooms that I have available. And unfortunately, this room is actually off offline, so it's not that good of a demo. But if I wanted to go ahead and see all the rooms that I have today, I would see all those listed here. That's part of the managed meeting room service. So in this case, I just have this one, and pretty much what I'm able to do is I'm able to come in here and see, hey, is the meeting app working? Is the camera working? Is the conference microphone working? And see exactly everything about the device. Microsoft also reports on all the specific software and firmware versions. So I can say, hey, here's the current BIOS version of the machine. Is that up to date, or is that out of date? Is there potentially a security vulnerability that there is? And that will all be alerted. And if there, for example, maybe all the hardware in your environment is perfectly fine, but maybe let's just say there's a BIOS version out of date. Microsoft will open a ticket and say, hey, once its device would be enrolled in the service, hey, the BIOS is out of date. We need to update that BIOS in the machine. It's got this vulnerability or this patch that is required to make sure that your room is working as it is expected to. But you do have some settings available to you. As my screen goes dark, can you guys still hear me? I think so. Yep. So you do have some settings available to you. You can see the exact agent version, the BIOS name. A lot of information is being pulled directly out of the phone, whether it's like device type. You can also turn on and off different features within the Teams Room application. So maybe you don't want to actually sign to these devices manually and actually say, I want to enable dual screen support or turn on and off automatic screen sharing. You can easily go ahead and turn those features on and off right here. You can also go ahead and see exactly what is the default conference microphone, speakers, camera, and even if you have like a whiteboard support, you have the content capture camera. And then you can also see a list of different peripherals that are attached to the machine. And then also provided by Microsoft is an activity feed that is available from the device. Unfortunately, because this is offline, it's not really that great of a demo. But you can see exactly type of what logs have been collected for that Teams room right from the single pane of glass. And then you also have the ability to go ahead and restart the device right from here. And last but not least, you do have the ability to view all the updates that have been pushed to it. So you kind of see, hey, at this point, this Teams Room application was pushed to it, but it's kind of now, deprecated, and they kind of started pushing the newer versions as that device was online. You can kind of see that information listed as that got pushed out to the Teams Room. Additionally, in here, you can also view any type of reporting that you may have in terms of room health across the board, not just one specific device. You can view updates as a whole across your organization. So like, for example, this was pushed to all the rooms, but potentially even put this into a different ring that you have control of. So maybe you have like a test ring of MTRs, and you want to test how it is before it gets pushed to all your rooms. You have complete control of that over in the Teams Room Premium managed meeting room service. And then also, if I pull up the Teams Admin Center, we will see, in my tenant at least, I'm not sure, I believe this is production. I did mention this earlier. I do believe this is production, but I do not want to say it is for sure and then have somebody say, hey, why this is production. But you can kind of see in here, this is the Teams Rooms management. in the Teams Admin Center, so I can see pretty much that exact same information in a different form. I can see it's little Hub 500, a room camera, what type of speaker I'm using, what type of displays I'm using. You can see the overall health. A lot of the information you just saw inside the managed meeting room service is available inside the Teams Admin Center, minus that additional service where Microsoft will kind of alert you, hey, it's kind of up to you to alert on this information in the Teams Admin Center. And then in addition to this, you can kind of see we still have our IP phones listed. And then we also have, it's still called collaboration bars. I'm not sure if they're going to keep those separate or if they're just going to say Teams Room for Windows or Teams Rooms for Android. But kind of expect that to potentially change here in the near future with that rebranding they just announced at Ignite. So moving on from the demo, we are going to go ahead and hop into our wrap up for this session today. So feel free to go ahead and rate the session. Tell me how well I did, if I did great, if I did bad, if I talked too fast. I tend to talk too fast, so that is kind of one of my downsides, but it's also an upside where I can get a lot of content to you very quickly. But aware of that. But feel free to rate the session, and do be sure to attend other sessions that are available from other individuals as part of Teams Fest. And then do go ahead and show some support on Twitter using the Teams Fest hashtag. What I'll also do is I think we can go ahead and get that link put in the chat for anybody that does want to submit some feedback. And then we're going to go ahead and start with Q&A, but I do want to give one note is that if you do have any questions, you run into any issues, feel free to reach out to me anytime on my Twitter or via my blog. Any type of contact on the blog or on Twitter, I will respond to you. My Twitter handle is at Eric Marsi, and my blog URL is www.ucit.blog. So we're going to go ahead and begin with Q&A. I will go ahead and remove the mutes on all participants, and we can kind of go ahead and begin with the Q&A. And if you guys can use the hand raise feature, that would be greatly appreciated. And then that way we can easily, have people talking over people and go from there.
So I've got a couple of questions in the chat that I've picked up on. Okay. So I guess that the Teams Admin Center will be rebranded with the change to MTR/MCB. Will call quality, etc., come to MCBs also? So I think they mean the MTR Androids now, I guess. Is that correct? MCB, I guess, is collaboration bar.
Yeah, I've been seeing like MTRW, MTRA, like nobody's got like an actual terminology what they're looking for today. But the call quality is actually already there today for the collaboration bar. So if you actually pull up the account, so if you go to your Teams Admin Center, go to users and go to the actual room account that is being used for that collaboration bar, you can go ahead and see the call history and view the actual specifics of every single call that you have had inside the Teams Admin Center.
Okay. So the other question that I did see was, is there any information around how Teams panels will be licensed? I know that's not technically.
I've not seen anything, but like the Teams rooms, I expect there to be obviously cheaper, not paid for a whole meeting room at this point. But I do expect for there to be like a cheaper license that you're not paying for like a whole E3 or E5, just for literally that device to have an Outlook calendar and potentially even Teams licensing. So I do expect that they will have some type of individual license available for you.
Okay, sounds good. So Graham actually has just piped in and said that they'll use the same license as the meeting room license. It can be shared with an MTR and a panel, so there's no extra license if you've already got an MTR. Okay. So another question was, is there a way to do remote call control / join meeting from a Teams meeting room? So I think it means that from a help desk perspective, you could initiate so users don't have to join when they go in the room. You could kind of do it for them remotely.
So the only way that I could think of to do that, there's nothing really native to Teams that allows you to say, hey, I'm going to make this Teams room call out to somebody. The way that I would recommend is like some type of third-party remote control software. So like I mentioned in the presentation, something like VNC server, ConnectWise Control, which is kind of part of the ConnectWise Automate product family, and potentially, whatever, BombGuard or whatever type of remote support application you do.
TeamViewer, yeah.
Anything really.
Yeah. Okay.
But that point, you could just easily control the device like you're actually sitting there.
Gotcha. Okay, now that makes sense. I think where that would be useful if there's an auto answer feature on an MTR, that could be one way of doing it. You could just add the room to the meeting that's already taking place, but I don't think that's there, is there? There isn't an auto answer, is there, with MTRs?
Yep.
No. Okay, so another question was, do you know whether Microsoft are planning to enable device mode on the Poly X50 collaboration bars? Currently, the X50 is heavily restricted compared to an MTR.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've not heard any information on that.
Okay, fair enough.
And then Graham, thanks Graham for the shout out on the licensing, by the way. Appreciate it.
I don't know if there's any other questions. I think we might be covering everything. Just checking the chat. Nope, can't see anything. So I think that's everything. Unless anyone has another question, we'll end it there. But thank you for your session, and I've posted a feedback and room join links into the chat. Okay,
awesome.
Right. Well, thank you very much,
Eric.
Good session.
Thank you guys for joining today, and I really appreciate everybody in general. And if you do have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Thanks, Eric.